Basic jazz language, you really have to play 8 notes. How to build great 8-note lines connecting the chords. Generally speaking, the jazz language consists of 8-note lines and rhythms. We have of course 16-note lines and triplets, but this is not the most common. To really get the good jazz improvisation going, you need to practice your 8-note rhythms and your 8-note lines. Connecting your chords using 8-note lines is one of the important basic skills when playing jazz. This video is a guide on how to connect more bars of 8 notes. In this tutorial, why do you need 8-note lines? What is connecting 8-note lines over the bar? Basic tools to use when connecting 8-note lines, how to build up well-connected 8-note lines, 4 examples on great 8-note lines. Hi there, I'm Søren and welcome to Søren Saxophone Lessons. You are inspiring me to make these videos. When you're watching my videos, you are showing interest in music. This is important. How about hitting the like button and the subscribe button? All your support is very much appreciated. Jazz is 8 notes, let's go! Why do you need 8-note lines? The jazz language is built out of 8-note lines. In this example, 1, 2, 3. This is a jazz 8-note line taken out of the beautiful tune Sunny Side of the Street. But you have all the exceptions. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are lots of these exceptions, triplets, 16 notes and other subdivisions that they put into their solos. I'm doing that too. This makes it interesting, but the basic language is 8 notes. In this video I will focus on the 8 notes and not the exceptions, since most jazz solos in jazz history are played in 8 notes. This is why the jazz language is mostly defined as 8-note jazz language. To play jazz we need to speak the language of jazz, that is 8 notes. What is connecting 8-note lines over the bar? When we are improvising in jazz music, we are playing musical lines over a chord progression. This is the chord progression D minor, G7, C major, A7 flat 9. That's from the previous played Perdido. We're adding 8-note lines that fit the chord and the scales. This is a short 8 line fitting the chord notes and fitting the scales. When soloing, we often change scales and chords between the bars, so from the D minor to the G7. This is an all C major line, no sharps, no flats. Sometimes you will stay in the same general key and scale, but you still need to change the target notes you want to hit to produce the D minor chord and to produce the G7 chord, the sound of those two chords. This is exactly what connecting 8-note lines over the bar means. Make sure you outline the chord progression by hitting these target notes and chord notes. We play rows of 8 notes between the target notes in the progression. The target note of the D minor is, for example, a C. In the next bar we're hitting a B. Basic tools to use when connecting 8-note lines. When connecting 8 notes over the bars, you need to know what your connecting note is. You need to have a clear target note in the next bar. To know what your target note is, you need to train your chords and be able to pick the note that fits in the next bar. Further, you need to know the scales that fit over the chords, the scales you can use to connect those target notes. Here it's the D minor scale, the G7. Pretty much basic scales you need to know. You also need to be able to hit the target note, the chord notes of your choice in the bar. A general rule for jazz 8-note lines is to hit the target note, the chord notes on the beat of the bar. You see, the target notes, the D minor chord is the C, A, F, D, F, A, C in the first bar. In the G7 it's the G and the B and the D and the F. Those notes have a stripe. But this rule with hitting the target notes on the beat is overruled by the sound of the 8-note line. If your 8-note line is played strongly outlining the function you are playing, it does not matter where you put your target notes. Sound comes before any written rule. How to build up well-connected 8-note lines? The first and most important thing to know is your chord notes. Which chord note leads to what chord notes in the next bar? Here in the D minor to the G, the C leads to the B. The C on the D minor chord leads directly to the B on the G7 chord. The C is close by, but we need to go there. We need to make this distance. So my little line. On the second 8 note, I play that C is leading to the first note on the G7 bar. This is the material in between, how to get there. In many of my videos before this, I talk about chord note and chord note exercises and chord note solos. You need to know your chord notes really well. You can see this leads to the next one. Taking out the scale notes, only playing with chord notes. You hear that with added scale notes you get some extra tension and release in the played 8-note line. Here you can hear it without any extra scale notes. It sounds a little bit tame in comparison to the scale note added. The tension and the release comes with the scale notes, so you're actually not playing all the target notes, but you're playing some tension in between. Sounds great, try it, go there. When adding, you get all this great tension release. What I want is a line with great placement of target notes, the chord notes. In between I fill it with scale notes. I'm aiming for a good connection to the suitable target note in the next bar. The target note I want to hit in the next bar, I choose from mainly two principles. A target note from earlier in the bar which I hear leading to the great target note in the next bar. In this line, this is C to the B. The second idea, a target note close by where you are physically on the saxophone. Before I change the bar, I'm thinking, where am I and what note is easy to reach for me at this moment, which makes musical sense. In this example, I'm around the middle C on the saxophone. The obvious target note in the next bar is the B, the low B on the G7. One more time. There I'm hitting this B. I'm surrounding with the C and A. That's my second rule. The first rule, picking one early in the bar, leading that to a point in the next bar. The second one, go somewhere on the saxophone, finding out what is close by and leading towards that note. The basic principles in building great 8-note lines are simple. Hit the best target notes, create tension and release between chord notes and scale notes outside the chords. Aim for great connection between the bars by playing towards target notes in the next bar. Connecting chords and scales practice manual. If you need a thorough explanation and a more clear guide to how to get from chord notes to using the more pretty scale notes in your solos, I recommend you to check the practice manual out. Jazz Improvisation Step 2. This manual takes you through how to go from chord notes to scale notes in a really simple and quick guide. Check the link in the description. 4 examples on great 8-note lines. Example 1. This is a standard bebop line. I'll tell you a little bit what I'm doing. On the D minor chord, I just play up and down the scale. Further, I have most of my target notes of D minor on the full beats of the bar because I'm starting on the beat with the target note, just running up that scale. At the end of the bar, I add the B and the A as approach notes to the G on the G7. Because the leading effect of the two notes are so strong towards the G, I am trying not to put these notes on the beat, but focusing on the leading effect towards the G. On the G7 I play the bebop scale, the G, the G flat and the F. This scale you need to check, see my video on this, link in the description. The following notes, the A and the E, is another example of approach notes sounding great with a strong leading effect. They are not chord notes but scale notes of G7 leading towards the D. The A is a pivot note, octave displacement. You can also play the A an octave higher. This is a matter of taste, and this is exactly what the pivot is about. Example number 2. This line is a little bit more complex since it's not only up and down the scale. On the D minor I'm playing a 5-3-2-1 pattern, the A, F, E, D. This is outlining the D minor chord very well, putting target notes on the beat and adding the 9 to the chord. On the second half of the D minor 7 bar, I surround the F on beat 3 with the G and an E scale notes of the D minor. The F and the G on beat 4 of the bar is leading towards the A in the G7 bar. On the G7 bar, I start with postponing the G7 target note by surrounding it with the A and the C. The A and the C are great tension around the B. From the B, I run down the before mentioned bebop scale. The A is the same idea as the previous lick, a pivot note, octave displacement. The F and the A would be leading to a E, a C major chord, an E in the following bar. Example number 3. Starting by surrounding the F on the third beat. Playing from the A to the G to the F as the upper line, adding the E under are surrounding notes towards the F. There's the A, G to the F, but then I add the E, which are leading from under to the F. That's how I come to the F. On the F, I play up the F major triad, added the G. Basically, this is a D minor chord with the F, the A and the C. The A and the C are also surrounding notes to the B of the G7. The whole line is built up around this movement, the A from the beginning of the bar leading to the B in the beginning of the second bar. This is an example of a guide tone line running through the first two bars. From the beginning of the D minor 7 bar, I hear the resolution to the B. From the beginning of the D minor 7 bar, on that A, I hear the resolution on the B. The full G7 bar is a scale run going from B, the third, to the fifth, and down to that F at the end of the bar, keeping the target notes comfortably on the beats of the bar. Again, beginning with a group of approach notes and surrounding notes. The first part of the D minor bar, the A, B, C and E, are outlining an upper structure of the D minor 9 chord and A minor triad. The A, C, C, E are not so powerful target notes of the D minor 7 chord. They have a great leading effect towards the D minor 7 chord within the chord. The second half of the D minor 7 bar is outlining the D minor chord, the D, C, A. The A sharp is a chromatic leading note towards the B. There you have your beautiful B. In this example, I'm again using the guide tone line from the first note of the D minor bar, the A, and leading this to the B in the second bar. I'm basically staying in the same area of the scale and on the saxophone, so the leading of the B is quite obvious. On the G7 bar, I'm immediately playing the G7 bebop scale from B to F, adding the G flat between the G and the F. The last half of the G7 bar, the F, G, A, B, is a typical Coltrane sound. 7, 1, 2, 3, I call it. Maybe there are other names. This sound. The four tones are all with a whole step in between and gives this great augmented sound. You should really check this out. In this video I've mentioned lots of ways to practice and lots of methods you can add to your basic material. In this description I have added links to some of my videos working with this material. I really recommend you to check out these to get a great insight in how to get these front steps, these before steps to get into the 8-note lines. This is how to connect your scale to your chords. 3 of the greatest bebop licks going around this bebop scale. Chord notes instantly boost your jazz scale using this method. Always ask questions. If there is something you are doubting or have question about in this tutorial, please ask in the comment section. Likes, subscribes and shares are of course always welcome. All links mentioned in this video are available below in the description. Play music, have fun.